Spooky Tuesday.
Let me guess. You'd like to start on birth control.
No, I just want to be checked out. Make sure that there are no adaptations or anything. I think there might be something weird going on inside.
Hey guys, welcome back to Spooky Tuesday, a weekly podcast where we're breaking down all of our favorite slashers, thrillers, monster movies, and black comedies on the new scariest day of the week. I'm Sydney Thompson.
I'm Monica Height.
And I'm Chelsea Duff.
And this week, you know what we're going to show you? Our teeth!
Oh, that was really beautiful. You've been really creative intros recently, Sydney, and I've been really liking them like a lot.
I just wing it. I do not rehearse any of these. It's just what will I do in the moment?
Oh my God.
Right off the
Improvise, comedic
Yes.
genius.
Thank you.
What a movie.
I fucking love this movie.
When did this come out? 2007?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah. I mean, it feels like it came out in 2007. Sydney, you were saying when you introduced this, or let everyone know we're doing this last week, that we watched it together, but like I didn't remember any of the goddamn plot, only the deaths, none of the plot. I'm very confused. Did I delete this whole memory from my mind? I didn't even remember like the purity shit. I don't know. I'm worried about myself at this point.
Here's the thing. I don't think you watched it. You were mad that we were all watching it and standing around the TV. And you were like trying to party and like walk around. And then you were like, why is everybody on the TV? It wasn't until you turned the sound off. Like we were actually watching it. And then you came and turned the sound off. And then we stayed watching it.
I thought we had been watching it earlier or something, and that's why we put it on. I'm shocked that I even let y'all put a movie I hadn't seen on the TV because then it would have been spoilers. but
but clearly it wasn't.
I mean, I remembered all the deaths, and but I didn't remember any of the evangelizing. So I mean, probably for the best. But I was shocked by that part.
Okay, well, if you like Monica have seen this, but just so happened to forget everything that it was about, Teeth is still a stranger to her own body. A high school student discovers she has a physical advantage when she becomes the object of male violence. Which,
I hate that.
Yeah.
That is a horrible IMDb description. TBH.
The vibes are really off. Also,
They're rancid. I mean, that was something that while doing the research for this, like the marketing that they did for this, they like fucked it a la Jennifer's Body, and marketed this in a way that was like very, very strange compared to what the movie ended up being, and then the movie flopped because of that. And so I feel like this tagline is part of that marketing ploy. I don't know what that is. I don't like it at all.
What's the tagline?
Oh, no, sorry. That description and that sort of thing. The whole thing, they marketed this movie as like a straight up horror. And they tried to make it like maybe a little sexy vibes too, because they use that image that's, what's her name? What's the main girl's name in this movie? Anybody? Dawn. Oh my God, it's my birth mom's name. Very strange vibes for me. Yeah, but Dawn, like they marketed it as like a, similar to what they did with Jennifer's Body, that it's gonna be like a sexy lady kind of thing. She's in the bathtub. She has those like sexy eyes look over the bathtub, and she looks sinister and blah, blah, blah. But we've seen the movie. That's not at all the vibe of the movie at all. It's got a weird ass vibe.
This movie is so funny. This movie's
so
so fucking funny.
Oh my God. It's really subtle too. It's not even like laugh out loud funny at first. I mean, I did laugh out loud a lot. I watched this in the back of a car yesterday. So that was my setting. So it's not the most ideal setting. But they wanted to do more of like a quirky vibe for the marketing. Like there's this great article from Vice where they sat down with what's her name? Purpline, I think is her last name, which is crazy. They sat down with the person who worked on it, one of the producers, and I'll find the name in just a second, and went over like all of the questions, what like they could have done better, blah 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 blah. And part of it was marketing ploy, and they have like a sample of what they wanted the marketing to be. And it's this picture of Dawn wearing the iconic warning, sex changes everything shirt that she wears during the film. And then there's the big gold sticky over where her like vagina would be, and she's like not wearing pants, but she's wearing UGG boots, and she looks like what, I don't know what's going on. And then it says teeth next to it, and I think it's way more indicative of the film. But yeah, I think that they really kind of misled audiences here, and I know that I didn't expect it to be the way that it was either, especially because I thought I'd seen it before.
Yeah, I think it's really a slow burn of a film. It's got a lot in common DNA wise with like It Follows, especially with the emphasis on sex. But in the way that it's just like kind of creeping along, kind of like as I don't know, it's more eerie in a way than it is like scary. You're not I'm not scared of well, apparently lots of boys are very afraid of this movie. But that's a them problem. And also that's culture, because there's really no reason for any man to be afraid unless he's terrible. But some men don't see some of this stuff as, I don't know. Do they not realize all these men are villains and are all get what they deserve? I don't get it.
I think everybody's low-key just scared of vaginas. Like
in general,
yeah,
not just ones with teeth, but in general,
yeah, vaginas like scare people for some reason.
That's why they had to put the sticker in the textbook. Couldn't even look at it.
The power that the vagina holds is just too immense and too much that they just cannot handle.
I know. Oh my God. It's so like they show that in the movie too, when like they are perfectly fine with having the depiction of the penis in the science book, but they have to cover up the woman, like the vagina in the science book. I was just like, is this real? Like, why would you show the penis then? It just doesn't make any sense. And people just like cannot understand. Okay, honestly, of all of the parts that they show in the book, it should be the vagina, so a man can find the clitoris. Like, honestly, they've really done us a disservice once again. It's all on purpose. They don't want us to have joy.
Big textbooks doesn't want us to know where the clit is.
It's true. It's so true. You heard it here first. The person who the interview was with from Vice is Joyce Pierre-Pauline, and she's one of the producers. But the thing I didn't know about this movie is that it's written and directed by a man, Mitchell Lichtenstein, which I should have assumed because almost like so many movies are by men. But he's actually Roy Lichtenstein's son, which is so weird. It's like a famous artist. So it's just like a weird thing. But it kind of makes sense because there's some things that happen to this that once we get to it, I'll chime in. But there are things that happen to this that to us are like, we're like, this is a villain, but we're not necessarily intended to be that way by the writing and the directing. Yeah. So just makes me feel a little ooky about it. I think it still has a good message and I still really liked this movie, but that did really take the wind out of my sails, you know.
I don't want to wait to discuss that. Can you tell me right now immediately who you're talking about?
The part, okay.
The gynecologist?
No.
Okay, thank God.
No. Hold on. Not Toby.
The nerd boy?
Ryan, the one who.
No, he sucks.
Yeah, I know that.
Oh my God.
But apparently the the part where, you know, Ryan like drugs Dawn, and then she falls asleep and she wakes up and he's like diddling her with that vibrator finger thing. Like that was not supposed to be bad. It was supposed to be
Well,
good.
here's my thing with that part. I think there is potential for that to be totally consensual and totally fine and normal if that conversation just happened like off screen, you know what I mean? And I'm open to the possibility that it did. It's still a little wonk because she clearly came to him like in a state of trauma and shock. And so like, does she have her full capabilities to consent? And is she like emotionally prepared?
I don't agree with you, because in a movie that where consent is such a big part of the film, to not have that conversation on screen makes it innately like it didn't happen, you know? Like
And
it has to
especially
be on screen.
he gave her like an anxiety med or something. Like all bets are off.
yeah,
Anything she
yeah.
says after that are like null and void. And she gave her
Exactly.
champagne mixed
He didn't tell
with
her.
an
Yeah,
anti-anxiety med, which like will make you loopy.
totally. And he was trying to like get in her pants like on a dare. Not that he didn't already like actually have a crush on her. I'm not saying that. But like that part was so overtly predatory to me, and apparently like the director Mitchell has had to be like, yeah, that was fucked up of me, I shouldn't have put that in the movie. Yeah,
I mean, what I
think
was
that was the bad part. I'm like, that is the bad part. There's other bad parts too, but they're all bad.
sure. What I was trying to get at is that like I think it's one of those things where depending on how it played out, it could have been one way or another. While I was watching it, I was like, I sure wish I could remember if I was supposed to root for this guy, but I do think that he sucks. But I think the bet really colors those actions, and the fact that he's so shitty during the second time that they're fucking is the part that like really makes it clear that it's not chill, because they do have a conversation at one point where it is like vaguely almost affirmative consenty, where he's like, is this okay, do you want me to stop? And she's like, no, keep going, I like it, blah blah blah, whatever. Like I think there is room for having, if essentially what I'm saying is I agree, I think we would have needed to have that conversation on film to have this be like a nice experience that we can co-sign. But I think if the scene hadn't played out the way that it did, I would have been willing to extend the benefit of the doubt to the movie as like a clumsy handling, which is kind of what it seems like it was. But yeah, the fact that he answered the phone and was like, yeah, she's right here, I'm fucking her right now, go ahead, say something. He doesn't even realize that he's being so stupid and a little stupid bitch.
Here's the thing. If a man was inside of me and he answered the phone and was like, yeah, she's here right now, and then told me that they made a bet on who could fuck me, I would happily dismount and then bite his dick off with my actual mouth,
with your mouth
shit it in his face. And then
we don't all have
vaginal teeth, you know.
Yeah,
we
I
don't
don't have vagina dentata,
but we all have the dentata.
Exactly.
Just do a quick spin around and chomp. Done. But anyway, I think we should go back to the beginning of this movie, because I don't want to get into the thick of it too soon, but we kind of already have, but whatever, we're going back. The beginning of this movie I thought was so fucking funny. Just because I was so taken aback by the whole purity angle of this. Oh, I'm skipping something. The very, very, very beginning of this movie is horrifying. Starts off with the setting up the brother sister thing, and it lets you know that this is gonna be on the horrifying side of comedy for sure. You know, we love kicking it off with a molestation framed between nuclear waste towers. That's wonderful. But
what
I think it was very effective.
Like, because we see the giant nuclear, like the
Yeah.
power plants, like, but is that supposed to be like a
It's
I think
supposed
it's just
to
the
be like,
mutation.
yeah, it's supposed to be like that's probably where the mutation came from because she's probably drinking like water with waste nuclear
Irradiated
waste
water.
in it,
Yeah.
radiated water, and also that's supposed to be probably what caused her mother to get sick.
Oh, I didn't even think
Yeah.
of that.
So it's just like they frame it in these like particular ways to be like, oh, why is this happening? That's why. Like they like when she's biking back from the hospital, you can see them in the background. Like
I
they
didn't
set up that
think
first
about it being the
shot,
sick
like
mother.
yeah, the sick mother and the mutation. Those are the two, which I thought was really fun. I like that they don't even get into that at all. And also, I really like the opening credits to this movie because that also is like a mutation thing. It's like the cells doing, I don't even know, it's crazy cell stuff.
Mitosis.
Looks like suspect cell activity. Um, and they like never get into it. They make it seem like it's a freaking Contagion movie in the beginning. Just like that reminded me of the Contagion vibe. But yeah, I think it's awesome that they don't make it about that because it's not about that. The movie is about what happens because of that, but it's like still being like, you wondering why? This is why. Don't talk about it anymore. We got bigger fish to fry.
I actually did really like the way that that was handled because I think in a movie like this, some people are going to want an explanation and it's not really plot relevant. It's not really necessary to understand the story to have an explanation laid out for you. It's just like not the point. So I liked that they have it like very literally in the background, but not the focus. I just think it's like a very elegant way to like present it for
Totally.
the people who want or need something without like really getting into the weeds.
Totally. No, I really agree with you. I thought it was really smart. But I think that opening scene is so is a fucked up but great way to introduce the whole thing. That like that she still has no idea that this is going on with her, and then like to go immediately from that to showing that she is like really into purity and that's like her whole thing in chastity, and literally is like giving talks about it. So you're like, oh, she really has no idea what's going on down there. And they even kind of seal the deal because like it starts out with her giving this like insane speech about saving yourself for God and your wedding day and blah 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 blah, and then it goes right into like some pastor or some other dude coming up and starts talking about masturbation. He's like, is it okay to touch yourself? And everyone's like, no. And so you're like, okay, so she hasn't masturbated either, so she hasn't found it out that way. The kind of is like checking those boxes like, yep, Dawn does not know.
She's got no idea.
she's just a girl who's really into purity. And here's the thing, let's think about the timeline here. This movie came out in 2007, okay? In 2006, the Jonas Brothers released their first album, It's About Time. I'm just saying, these are concurrent historical events with purity at the forefront. I was also a huge fucking Jonas Brothers fan, like a huge Jonas Brothers fan. But even then, purity was defo not on my list of things to do, and I was being influenced by the three hottest brothers in the world. So like, this girl she believes it, baby. She believes it. Dawn just believes it.
Yeah, purity was not on my list of things that I was doing in 2007.
Oh my god. I mean, I was straight up a virgin until college. So I was practicing purity, but it was not because I wanted to.
Monica was like, purity against my will, okay?
Yeah, I mean, that's interesting though. There definitely was like this weird purity culture focus in the early 2000s. I mean, the movie Saved also only came out in 2004, and that's also very much like a purity culture movie, and also really good. We should do it for our Fifth Tuesday sometime.
I should have looked up if there was a conversation about the Jonas Brothers and this movie coming out around the same time, because their self-titled came out in 2007 and a little bit longer came out in 2008. Like this was This was Purity Central USA, baby. It was
Well,
on the
but
public
also-
consciousness.
I was seeing like discussion about this on Twitter recently, and I can't remember why it came up other than somebody like dug up a Beyonce interview where she very much was like pointedly not commenting on it, but like Britney Spears talking about like waiting for marriage and staying pure with Justin Timberlake, and then it being like a huge scandal when he revealed that they'd had sex. Like there was such an investment. Jessica Simpson talking about like purity culture and waiting for marriage when she was a big star. Like it was so a part of the culture for some reason in that era in a way that it very much like wasn't in other eras.
And weirdly
Yeah.
enough, we're actually in kind of like a quasi another like
With the
rebranded
Puritans.
Resurgence. Oh,
a little bit,
no.
but I've noticed it a lot on like TikTok and Twitter where they're talking about how like sex is like an energy in exchange and you don't want to, exchange energy with like people that are gonna blah blah blah. And it's just like it's a very more like spiritual, like woke, like woo woo rebranding of purity culture, which is just absolutely wild.
I mean, I get being choosy. I get being like, I don't fuck with your vibe. I don't want your vibe inside my vibe. You know what I mean? But like not like, still do it if you want to,
Right?
I
Have
just
a little fun with it. Just be safe.
yeah. But oh my God, I mean, watching this movie, I felt so bad for these kids because they can't do it, it's all they're fucking thinking about. Literally at all times. That's all they're thinking about. In high school myself, maybe it was because I was unwillingly chastity. What? Okay, let's pretend I said it right.
Yeah.
Like I wasn't thinking about sex every moment, but these kids are like, when they hang out after school, they're giving speeches about not fucking. And then when they're not giving their speeches about not fucking, they're sitting tensely next to each other in the movie theater, going to see a child's movie, so it'll have no references to sex, so they won't be tempted even more. Like, holy shit, that sucks.
They're hornier than anybody else, for
They're
sure.
so horny. And also, this is just a little cute aside. So we see Dawn's purity ring. It's like the red purity ring. I don't know if everybody else's ring is the same. But the entire cast and crew all had matching purity rings that they wore the whole time.
Cute.
Should we get matching purity rings?
Yeah, I mean, I don't
For
have a ring on this finger,
sure.
so might as well. As long as it's something like dumb looking, like I don't know, like a Scooby-Doo ring or something that no one will mistake for a wedding ring, because I don't want to have to deal with people being like, "Oh my God, Adam proposed," and I'd be like, "No, it's my purity ring with my fucking spooky Tuesday podcast girlies."
It should be like a vagina with a big like X
Big
on it.
throbbing clit. I'm so sorry.
Like
It's a big red ruby right where the clitoris
right
is.
where the clit
I
is.
want it to be like a ring, but then it kind of comes to a point vaginally. And it's got the little ruby at the top, and then it's also got little teeth around each side of it. That's what
Ooh,
I
little
want.
like pearlescent. Wow. Any
Or they could be
jewelers
little
fans of the pod?
fangs.
Ooh. Oh my God. Oh man, I meant to look into that. I know we're skipping around, but the part when they examine the teeth and he's like, it's like a mixture between a shark tooth and a lamprey. And I was like, oh my God, I'm absolutely obsessed with this description. Because have you seen a lamprey mouth, man?
Oh, they're
It's
terrifying.
fucked up. It's the sucker mouths. Oh, yeah. Ooh, yeah.
And
mhm,
it's just
yeah.
like rows and rows of teeth.
Uh-huh. Oh, it was awesome. But they're like, it's so weird. It's like just like a lamprey, but yeah, that's a person's tooth. I'm like, I don't know how you're figuring this out, but okay, sure. I
Well,
believe it.
I would imagine DNA testing would say that it's human.
I guess, yeah. My brain can't understand how you find DNA in a bone.
I don't
tooth
really get
thing,
it. That's
but
not our business. We're not
whatever,
scientists.
that's not for me to know.
Yeah.
This isn't that type of podcast.
Mhm.
I also want to let you guys know that I tried just right now to search Jonas Brothers versus Teeth movie, and everything that I saw says Nick Jonas talks spinach being in his teeth during the Grammys. Nick Jonas had spinach in his teeth. Nick Jonas confirms he had something in his teeth. So there's no way I'll ever find it because one time Nick Jonas had spinach in his teeth on TV.
Put minus quote spinach unquote.
Oh my god, that's so funny. The one way to get rid of the spinach content, it's still there.
Minus
no.
quote Grammy's quote.
Minus quote spinach quote. Nick Jonas's teeth before and after. No, they're celebrities. We'll never find it.
Oh
There's
my
nothing.
God.
Jonas Brothers sing about brushing your teeth. They have a song about brushing teeth. It's over.
My shiny teeth and me, shiny teeth.
That's all I can think of too.
That's why
Teeth
go
that
just
sparkle.
like
Yeah.
and teeth that got a beauty to my
Every time I
face.
try to tease.
I
beautiful.
love them and they all love her. Cut this out. Cut this out.
That was really
My
that
shiny
was
teeth
good.
and me, shiny teeth, shiny teeth.
That was really good. It was really good. And that's like the most important part. I'm really glad that we can have a full 15 minutes to talk about the Jonas Brothers on this pod. Anyway, what else happens in the movie? Another thing, okay, I'm gonna stop after this, but I think that Toby looks like Nick Jonas also. That was
Great,
another
so
thought that I had.
Jonas
That was another
Brothers
thought that I had.
agenda today.
You know that whole trope of it's like girl who immediately sees somebody in the show and has to go to IMDb to figure out like what other things they were in. That
Uh-huh.
was me watching this. I was like, why does Toby look so familiar? And I
Did you
like
watch The
Nick Jonas.
Magicians?
I did.
Nice.
Oh,
Apparently, they
Ooh.
make a joke about vagina dentata in an episode of The Magicians, and he's part of that scene. So it's a fun little reference that they do.
is that
and
so
he's in-
good? Because he's
it's-
really hot.
It's incredible. And he plays like a fun bisexual. Wizard.
What?
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
my god.
Yeah,
I
like,
watched the
and
first
it
few
sucks.
episodes.
It sucks so bad that he becomes like the worst, most horrible fucking person in the entire world in this because I was like so in love with him at the beginning. I was
I
like, wow,
know.
they locked eyes across the purity, the purity meetup floor. Like, wow. Imagine out of your mouth you're saying you should never have sex because it's not good and Jesus will be mad at you, but you're making fuck me eyes at the guy across the room. Like, imagine that, the dichotomy. It's beautiful. She's very talented. But yeah, these poor horny kids, they're doing what they can to have fun, and it's not very great. But like leading up to the moment where the shit goes down with Toby, like I was like, this is awesome. Because they were like, we can't stay away from each other. We must meet me at this beautiful fairy ass fuck cave. That's awesome. What an awesome place to lose your virginity potentially. I was like, there's cave swimming, there's nice like vines. That looks nice. And then it was horrible and it went really bad and I was so upset.
But also, did you notice like when she climbs up in that cave and she's like, why is there like a blanket and stuff? Just
She
magically
immediately cuddles into it. So
But,
many
like-
people have for sure fucked on that sleeping bag.
I thought there was going to be a man back there sleeping back there. That's what I thought was going to happen. I was like, be careful.
This is clearly like horny teenager fuck spot. So they just have
Well, they say that. They literally say that the first time they go with the other couple. They go like, this is a makeout spot. Don't worry, we're in a group. We'll police each other, so it's fine. And then even then, that's what causes her the next day at school when she calls him on the phone in the locker room to be like, I was too tempted, basically. Like, we have to stay away from each other. The temptation was too strong.
I'm too horny.
Once she knew about the fuck
Yes.
cave, she just had to fuck in it, you know? Like, as soon as you hear about it, it's an inevitability. There's nothing else you can do but go there. You're drawn back like a moth to the flame. I don't blame her. It's a cool ass place for it.
She didn't really want to fuck in the fuck cave.
She wanted to make out in the fuck cave. Okay. She was being called to the fuck cave.
To have
okay?
a tender moment,
To have a
of
tender
intimacy.
moment. And then Toby
A
is
tender
a
consensual
psycho
moment.
fucking freak. I just like, oh my god, I get it. You can be really horny, but like absolutely fuck you. Ugh, so horrifying. This movie is really fun, but it's like so hard to watch. And I forgot
This
how hard to watch it is. Like, oh god.
I do think it's hard because almost none of the men are good. The dad is actually very nice for the
He's
most part.
very
I
nice
think,
and he's
yeah.
got beautiful eyes.
I really like the dad, Bill.
And I'm really glad that he existed in this film and was there to be like, see, some men are nice and can be nice and care about their families and just want their families to be a family. I do think without him, the film would be infinity times more grim. You know what I mean? It is pretty grim, but also it doesn't make me feel terrible in the way that other very grim films sometimes do. So I think that's nice.
That's true. You do get some like fun she gets more like fun agency towards the end. I can't remember which one of the articles I read that said this, but I linked it in the references. But basically, they're saying like the first 45 minutes of the movie are like supposed to be funny. They're not that funny. Like, they're not like laugh out loud funny, which I think is fair. Um, and like you're just watching all this stuff like happen to the main girl, and you're like, okay, she doesn't feel empowered. I don't feel empowered. Like, this feels really weird and bad. And then you have to like wait for such a long time for her to like for it to turn the tides. And so it's uncomfortable in that very, very long beginning part. It takes a really long time to get to the point where you're really having fun with it. Because it's just actually really fucked up, horrible things happening time and time again. Wait, you get there, you do, and I think the payoff's really fun. But whew, whew.
One of the things that I do like about this movie compared to like maybe other like rape revenge films,
Mhm.
have y'all ever seen the 70s movie I Spit on Your Grave?
I
I
haven't
think
yet.
I've seen one of the reboots, but I don't think I've seen the original.
The
I'd really
original
like
one
to
is
see
like
the original.
really disturbing and very graphic, and it's known for being that, but
Mhm.
it's a good for her at the end movie, you know?
Yeah,
And
the whole thing is her getting her revenge.
yeah, and what I like about this movie is they show these assaults on her without uh making it overly graphic or
Yes.
showing a lot of nudity. Like, the only time we really see her naked is when she's like looking at
Examining
herself
herself.
in
Mhm.
Yeah.
adoration of herself. And I think that
That's
is
true. That's a
really
really good point.
refreshing and something you don't get a lot, and a little bit ahead of its time in for 2007. Know what I mean? I could see that
So true.
now, but for 2007, good for them.
I don't know when the Last House on the Left movie that I saw, the newer one.
Oh
But
yeah,
that
with
one
Sarah
has like
Paxton from
with Sarah
Aquamarine.
Paxton has
Woof.
literally the most graphic, horrible sex scene that goes on, or rape scene, excuse me, that goes on for forever, and you can see everyone being naked. It's like horrifying. So that you're really great point. Like, you don't have to see it; you can just imagine like that part of it, and also like the vagina dentata thing too, like her like actually doing the manch, you know. You don't need
The
to
fact that
see
we
that.
never see that. Yeah. I think
I
that's
mean,
pretty
how would
cool.
they film that? But I'm
I
I
mean,
like just
that we
seeing the
don't even
aftermath.
get the suggestion of it when we explicitly see several dicks. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I appreciate that a lot.
My favorite trope in all of movies is not a lot of female nudity and a whole lot of dicks.
Mhm.
That's what I want.
Yeah.
That's my favorite thing. Like, like, don't get me wrong, I love seeing like boobs and stuff, but the film representation is not equal.
Mhm.
We
Yeah,
have been
and we
getting
get
a
to
lot
see it.
more dicks recently, but I need more dicks.
Always need more dicks. The thing is, there's also one dick that you see for just a second that's not dismembered, and that's fun too. It's in the phone call in the what's it called?
Oh, in the
Changing
locker room?
Locker room. Thank you. Couldn't remember that word. Locker room scene. And it's not Toby. It's the guy right next to Toby. And his
Nice.
dick does a little flop, and then you move on. I'm like, oh wow, how great! I literally in my notes, I was like, a dick. And then you got a lot more, but in a lot of different ways.
Isn't it funny how in like TV and film I want to see more dicks, but you know where I don't want to see any dicks? In my DMs or on my phone.
Yeah.
Mm.
Couldn't agree
Like,
more.
there is a
They're not going to be
time-
as well lit as they will be on HBO Max. So
No. HBO Max is gonna
leave it to the professionals
artistically stylize them in a way and not the
with the
self-
euphoria lighting.
right.
I
Too
just
true.
think that it's fun to see dicks in horror because most of the time something terrible is happening to them, and it's because the man was terrible. So like in Ma and in this movie, I guess the when we saw the suggestion, the silhouette of a dick in X, that was just a fun little treat for nice reasons. Nobody was being
Yeah.
bad.
No.
But the
No,
owner of the
Kid
dick was not
Cudi-
being bad. Yeah,
Kid
Kid
Cudi
Cudi
is
was
the
being
best.
flawless and perfect. Oh, what's the other one? VHS. We saw that dick get demolished. I just think the balance of nudity in film is such that usually when women have their tits out, they're being exploited both in Hollywood and also by whatever psycho killer is chasing them. You know what I mean? And equality is so important. Equality is so important.
It's so important. Oh, okay. Switching back to just plot wise for the movie. I don't know at what point this comes, but I didn't remember, obviously, because maybe I didn't see this movie before, that Toby literally died.
Yeah.
That he
Yes.
straight up like drowned and died. So when she like goes back to the scene of the crime and sees the dick just still sitting there, which was so funny.
No, with the crab.
With the crab. Oh
It's
my
a
And that's supposed to
metaphor.
be like a little jump scare, I think, because she's like, and then there's like the music, and it's the
And the
crab.
crab's like they do a lot of things with the mutilated penises being further mutilated, which I love.
They're having fun. They're having a
they're
good
having
time.
a blast. I'm having a blast. That was hilarious. I love crabs. It's great to see a crab in a place that I didn't expect. That looked like a saltwater crab, but whatever. I don't know. I'm not an expert. Anyway, it's a nuclear site. Anything could happen. But when Toby's car is just sitting there still with all the windows down and the car never left, I was like, oh my God. Oh, I guess this comes after the part. That part does come after the part that I wanted to talk about next, which is when she goes to do her second speech after like what happened with Toby had happened. And I think the setup to that, they do a good job of making you think that Toby's still alive. That he's just out there maimed somewhere. But that part was so weird and so like hyper real. I don't know what actually happened and what was in her mind, but because all of the like chastity babies were like chanting back really fucked weird things to her. I don't know.
The
I really like
serpent.
that scene. Oh, the serpent. That's the serpent part.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I thought that part was great. She's clearly still like processing in this really strange way. She's like in the car driving over there with her two friends where they're like, you're gonna do great. They think she's just like nervous about speaking again or whatever, and she's like, huh, like she doesn't even know what they're talking about. She's so like almost dissociative in the moment.
Yeah.
And then she gets up on stage and she still is just like not fully at capability, like she's not really engaged with what's going on. She's so overwhelmed. I thought that was a really interesting way to have her processing her feelings on screen, because so often things like that are so internal, you know what I mean? You're not really having conversations necessarily, but you can't always get that in a movie or TV show unless you're doing a voiceover, which they use pretty sparingly in this movie. And so I thought that was a really interesting, well done way to show her kind of like giving us as the audience some of her thoughts about what's going on.
Yeah, that was it was so bizarre. And just to, she couldn't get up there and fake it anymore after what she'd been through. Ooh, that was just really hard because, like, I don't agree with what she was preaching, but to have something you believed so fervently be taken away from you, and then you're like, that your whole community, you can't be a part of it, or you feel like you can't be a part of it anymore. I mean, I think that was a really like meaningful and sticking point of the movie for me. I was like, oh my god, so she's poor thing's going through a lot. She's got like, it's like puberty on steroids, My body is changing and I can't stop it. Her body has grown teeth and is biting off dicks and she can't stop it. Oh god. But
I'd be horrified to like have to sit there after all that would happen to me and have just like children chant at me, like that would shake me to my core. It would haunt my dreams.
I'm bad with even being around one kid because I'm not used to it. But many, and they're yelling at me in unison. That's horrifying. You're too powerful. Oh man. Also, okay, I think what happens next is what Dawn's mom like has to go to the hospital. And that brings us,
she goes to the doctor.
oh shit, she does go to the doctor first. The doctor part was so poignant for now, especially living in Los Angeles after everything that went down with USC. I was just like, oh my god. There was like
What
this
happened?
whole gynecological scandal with one of the gynecologists there and like doing bad things. So
There's
was
something
like,
at Hopkins too, where it was like
oh,
a man
yeah?
had like a camera or something that he was wearing as a gynecologist. What? Yeah. I mean, here's the thing. I've been to, my gynecologist is male. I do hate him now, so I need to find a new one. But he was fine most of the time. And
I
you
refuse
could
to
just
see
tell
male gynecologists because
I think that's a very
they're
fair
sus.
boundary to
I think
set.
it's
Yes.
sus.
I think it's
weird.
a very fair boundary to have.
Why do you, as a man, want to be a gynecologist? Like, why?
I miss my gynecologist, Jennifer. She was the greatest. I was obsessed with her. And my goal was to always make her laugh while her hand was inside of me. And I did it every single time. Every single time. And it was a wonderful, lovely experience. But recently, I had to go to, I'm with Kaiser now. So I was like luck of the draw urgent care person. And it was an old dude. But they have that thing now where a lady has to be there, which also feels weird to like have this nice lady nurse be there to observe you being fingered by some random man. But I like that I think that's a good safety precaution. It feels so fucked up though that has to be a thing. Because it's like, if this woman wasn't here, what would happen? And it doesn't mean that the guy would attack you, but it like kind of gives that vibe a little bit. It's just there for, so it's not a one person
protecting
said
everybody.
one thing, one person said another thing, but still it's just like a very strange. Oh yeah,
I love my gynecologist, except it wasn't very like women supporting women when she wouldn't let me keep my IUD after I had it removed.
It was not very women supporting women of her.
I want to make mine into earrings.
I wanted to put it in a jar and keep it on a shelf, so, on display.
What? That's been inside your body. You paid for that shit. It was property.
Inside my body for a whole decade. It was the longest, greatest relationship I've ever had. And honestly, I feel empty without it. Literally.
Just goes to show that you gotta yank those strings yourself.
Bro, don't do that.
People
have been trying to do that. That was like a thing. That was like a trend on the internet.
Was it? Okay, don't do that.
Yeah.
I take it back. Don't do that. I'm not even joking.
People were doing that and they were making themselves infertile. Like, yeah, don't do that shit. You heard it here second because I heard it from real places first. The second place you're hearing this is Spooky Tuesday. Do not repeat out yourself. But there's just like a whole bunch of really interesting psychological aspects of the whole gynecological visit. I took a class on gender and communication, and there was a whole part that we did about like the way they like desexualized a gynecologist's office, and they like segment the woman's body so you can't. I don't think they do this as much anymore, but there used to be like a paper where like the doctor couldn't like see your vagina and you at the same time. So like segmented you from the examination,
Huh.
the area being examined.
I don't know that I like that though. But like I was had a lot of emotional discomfort with my male gynecologist at points during gynecology visits. And other than why I hate him now, which is for IUD purposes, he was like pretty good about being like, do you want someone in here to observe? Like, okay, here's what I'm gonna do before I do it. Like, I'm warning you, like, I'm gonna touch you here now. There are ways to put a woman at ease in a gynecology office when she's scared. But the way that he came in hot and said something like, oh, so you have no idea of what to expect. I was like, oh, I'd seen the movie before. I knew where it was going. But just the second that he was like, you have no idea what to expect, I was like, he's exploiting this now. Now
Like,
he knows he can get away with
immediately.
anything because he thinks that she's too
Dude,
stupid
it's so
to
fucked
know.
up too, because I'm also just like, this is a terrible.
Four fingers straight in. Why?
I'm gonna test your
wrong with
flexibility. I'm
him?
gonna kill you where you stand, bitch. Are you kidding me? How dare you? But
He
also,
got what he deserved.
oh yeah, he got what he deserved. But also, like, he's not thinking about longevity here. In this moment, maybe he would have gotten away with it if she didn't have a big old lamprey inside her vagina ready to go munch on his bitch little fingers. But like the next time she went to the gyno, which would be next year, she would find out, hey, there isn't that part where they fist me. And then like it could come back and be like, hey, you're a horrible person. So like, I don't understand how men just think they can get away with this shit. It's fucking terrible. Oh man. Anyway, I really liked it when it was horrifying, but when his hand got stuck, I thought that was a little bit funny. Like
and she's like
he's
crawling
like,
away, like dragging him with her.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, like when she's like flips over and is on all 4s and she's like, ah, he's like,
and the
"Ah!"
thingies just all plop out on the ground. Oh my god. It was so funny. But I just felt so bad for her in that moment too, for so many reasons. Because she's like, I'm gonna go to the gynecologist and they'll tell me that everything is fine and it'll be okay. But then one, the gynecologist is a predator, and two, then she munches off his thingies, like, and has to deal with that trauma that like there's a finky muncher in there. But I love that she starts throughout the film to like learn that she can control this. It's like a Kegel. She just needs to know when to Kegel, and then she'll know when she's chopping, when she's not chopping. There you go.
Well, I think basically it's, is she into it or is she
Mhm.
not into it? And if she is like, I am not into this, chomp,
Yes.
chomp, chomp. Baby
Oh my
lamp.
So fucking horrifying.
That's where I think the confusion comes in with the Ryan scene though. Is like I think that's very much the implication that if she's cool, it's cool. If she's chill, there's nothing to worry about. And they're like having a good time. She finishes, she's admiring her body, blah blah blah. He warms her up with the vibrator. I really think that they thought that they were like, this is all great and romantic. And it could be
No,
with some tweaks.
I think that they were having a
scene.
good time, but I think that's like she was unconscious for the part that was not okay in my book, you know, and he made her unconscious. And so like when she came to, she wasn't freaked out, which is great, I guess, for her. Less trauma is always better, but like it's still like a really unchill scenario, which then it gets really confusing because then right afterwards they like have this nice consensual sex time that's sexy and fun. And so it's like a weird lesson for the audience. And that's why Mitchell Lichtenstein has apologized for that scene, because it's like he made it less, you know, and it, yeah,
It wasn't what he
in
intended
his mind.
it to
He was like,
be.
this is yeah, we did it. Like this is fun. No, it's like it didn't need to be muddled like that, in my opinion. But I I don't know what came next sequentially, but I just want to say that every single minute that the brother is in this movie is a minute that I am upset.
Yeah, there was a scene earlier that I think happened before this point, where she goes in to be like, I don't know why are not like a normal brother sister, and he's like, you know why, and she's like, I really don't know why, and he's like, it's because we're waiting to fuck. Essentially, you're saving yourself for me. You know it. I know it, and she's like, I actually don't know that. I actually don't know that.
Yeah. It's
And
so
that is
horrifying.
just, it's one thing to be a little child who is very curious about your body and other people's bodies and is not necessarily totally responsible for their understanding of boundaries being incorrect. A lot of times when kids exhibit that behavior, it's also because they're getting inappropriate treatment from somewhere else. But he is absolutely responsible for still being a weird pervy dick when he grows up.
Yeah,
That
and
one's
like
on him
in that
100%.
whole part with the dad, he's like, "Why did you marry her? Like, why did you marry her and make Dawn my sister?" It's just like, why are you holding on to a crush from when you were 5? Like, we gotta get over it.
But also,
It's
can we
time
talk
to
about
move on.
when he's talking with his girlfriend and she goes, why do we only have to have anal sex?
Wow.
He's traumatized by his sister's pussy.
I think he just
He
wants
put
her.
one little finger in there. No, because even when at the end he wants to fuck Dawn in the ass initially as well, and she's like, no, and then he's like, okay, and he's like ready to
Oh,
rise to the
I missed that
for her
completely. I thought
because
he
of their
just wanted to
love
do
or
a
whatever.
doggy.
No, I think he has that whole conversation with the girl. I don't know her name, but the girlfriend, when they're talking about the finger, and he's like, I don't really remember what happened. I think Dawn bit me. And she's like, you think a baby bit your finger off? She's not having it. I think he remembers what happens, but obviously it doesn't quite make sense if you don't know for sure she actually has teeth in her vagina. So he's being like, I don't really know, blah, blah, blah. He clearly has vagina trauma. He's like, I don't fuck with that anymore. I'll just put it in the butt.
He's so layered. JK.
Also, it's so weird that he's named his dog Mother.
It's
so weird.
scary.
And oh
so
my god! And like all the
creepy.
like sexy lady.
I love Mother though. She's
Posters
perfect.
on the wall. He does have great taste in movies though, because he's watching all those like old ass B movies, including the one with the like, I don't know, was that a scorpion? that one part of the movie where Dawn's having her sexy it's my wedding night dream with Toby, and then right when the sex happens the scorpion comes out. Like, wow, that imagery, wow, so meaningful, but also it was hilarious. I loved it. Oh man, the thing I didn't realize though at first, I think that Dawn was like fucking Ryan and their mom died while she was fucking Ryan. Cause didn't she come back?
No, I think the mom happens after the gynecology thing. So Ryan's been dead for a hot minute at that point. She goes to the like fairy fuck cave and sees that they're pulling out Toby's body, and they've discovered Toby's body, and then she comes home and her mom is like on the ground, and Brad with his door open is fucking his girlfriend in the ass and just ignoring the fact that the mom is on the ground.
Horrifying. Shit, brother.
Oh, okay. I guess I got the timeline wrong, because she's not dead at that point because they take her to the hospital. But then there's a point where Dawn leaves and she's gone for a long time. Then she goes back to the hospital and they're like, oh, you're the daughter, honey. And then you see the nurse crying and you're like, what's going on? And then Dawn is laying on top of her mom, hysterically crying. And it's clear that her mom is dead, and it was horrifying. And yeah. And then I think she goes home after that to confront her shitty ass brother. Who's to say?
Well, well, I'm looking at my notes. And what I can glean from them is that it's like, okay, she's in the hospital with the mom. The mom is dead. Then we get the scene that's the confrontation between the dad and the brother, where the brother says, "You made her my sister. I loved her, dad." And then the brother sicks mother on the dad, and only when the dad is like begging does he let mother up. And then the girlfriend takes the dad to the hospital because now the girlfriend is like, absolutely fuck this guy. He won't pay any attention to my pussy. And also he sucks. And also he attacked his dad. And also he's made it very clear he's in love with his sister and has been in love with his sister this whole time. So the girlfriend takes the dad to the hospital, and then they like run
And
into her
that's
there,
when the
into
sister
Dawn.
says,
And that's when
Oh,
the
the girlfriend,
girlfriend says your mom was calling, and
she does that all the
says-
time, just ignore.
She does this all the time. Ignore.
Ugh. So fucked up. And then she's like,
And that's when
I'm
she
gonna go
decides,
fuck my brother
yeah,
and kill
she's gonna use the
him.
power of her vagina to take him down. Absolutely.
I was like all for her plan, but it was like really hard to watch. Oh, so hard to watch. But I do love her dress that she was wearing. I loved her blue
I love her
eyeshadow. It was
blue
a very cute
eyeshadow.
look. It was a very cute look. She got all dolled up.
So interesting to me that she did like the very virginal white sundress. Especially with the whole like marriage associations and the way that they really played on that for like the fantasy scene earlier when she's thinking about the wedding and like how it might go, and she's like pulling down the sheet and like reaching under her nightgown. I thought it was really interesting that they like brought that imagery back to a degree, but in a way where she's like really taking control of it. I also think it's really fucking weird considering what Brad was saying about how she was waiting for him the whole time, that she's like, let me deliver him the most like perfect little virginal imagery. But weird in a way that was a fun artistic choice.
I think that she was like putting on that show for him. So just in case he had trepidations when the actual act was going down, like, yeah.
Couldn't
putting
resist
up the fantasy. That sort of thing. Oh my God.
I loved though, when he was like, "Why are you doing this now?" And she's like, "Are you afraid?" Like she does not answer in a straightforward way. He says, "This is too fucking weird," and she says, "Just wait." So I love how the whole time she's being like, "I know exactly what I'm doing, and I'm ready, and I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna get ya." And mother is like barking away, trying to warn him, but he is so fixated on this moment and on this thing that he thinks they're sweet life,
Living life
not
with
sweet life.
Derek.
Live it. Yes. Why can't I think of the life with Derek? He thinks they're Derek and Casey, and they're simply not. They're simply not.
They're not.
It's not. It's not life with Derek, honey.
He says, I mean, we always knew it would play out this way eventually, didn't we? Ever since we were little kids. No, but I do love the way that it cuts back to the scene from the beginning. Because in the beginning, we don't really see her response or anything. We just see him being like, ow! And then he has like his torn up little finger, and the parents are being like, what happened? But then when it cuts back to the memory at that scene, we see her smiling at him for a moment, which is just so good and such a fuck off.
So good.
I don't know. I also just love the way that mother eats his dick. So that's so deserved.
One, that dick piercing would catch.
It's a whopper. It's a whopper of a piercing.
It's very large. I feel like I would not want that inside of me.
Also very on point that he had one though. Is like very fitting to his character with his like fucking goatee piercing. Oh my God. But little fun fact for you to know is that the dick that mother ate was entirely made of confection sugar from a local bakery. And so no harm came to mother when she ate it.
That's so interesting because IMDb trivia talked about how the piercing specifically was made out of sugar, so that just in case the dog swallowed it instead of spitting back out, it'd be fine. But I didn't realize it was the whole entire dick.
I don't know if there was cake in there, but I think it was like fondant. fondant dick. A little
I
fondant
love
dick.
that.
Gross.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. Behind the scene knowledge. You heard it here first.
Yeah, I just loved we saw a couple of the other characters being able to get their shit reattached or whatever. We saw the gynecologist in the surgical suite. And they're like, what happened? And he just like reaches for the oxygen mask and pulls it over his face. And then cut to like 5 seconds later, we see Ryan in there and they're just like, gosh, there's a wave of them lately. And they have to reattach his dick. I like that Brad doesn't get his dick back
Also,
even if he survives.
When
He
they're
doesn't
doing
deserve
Ryan's
it.
dick, they're like, hardly seems worth it. But burn. They call this dick small. How mean.
Why? It's so purple in that scene. As soon as it's cut off,
I
it's
know.
immediately like blue.
I think
so scary.
Ryan's dick, that's the condom.
Oh,
that's a condom.
It
Oh,
was
that
the
makes
blue
sense.
condom.
That makes sense. I was like, why does it
Oh,
look
man.
so weird?
Well, I forgot the end of this movie, as I forgot the whole movie, but I also forgot the end, just in case you thought maybe I remembered it. I didn't. And I love that she was like, I'm going out into the world and I'm leaving it all behind. I don't know what her plan really was. But she's out there. She's on her way. She gets a flat. She's like, bikes are canceled, and just leaves the bike. As a cyclist, I was like, oh my God, we got to get you another tube, baby, but it's fine. And she hitchhikes, and I just have never been so horrified by a little tongue in my whole life. I mean, absolutely just fucked shit. So disgusting. Oh, that old man. I'm just like, oh my God. He's like fuck that. But also that actor did a great job of being so fucking terribly creepy. Oh.
Yeah, I remembered the ending. I did think it was the beginning. And so when it started with a different scene and then ended on the scene, I was like, oh, interesting. Because I thought it was like a flashback kind of thing from my recollections. But I don't know. I mean, I think that it is great in the sense that we see that this is like the whole moment she's reclaiming her life and her agency and her autonomy, and is like, actually, this can be useful to me and I can use this to protect myself. I do hate that she can only use it to protect herself at the point that she's already had to have been penetrated by somebody. It's not like a little monster that can come out and bite
like
people.
The
You know what I mean?
protuberance in Alien. What if it was? It should be.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That would be so cool.
But I also feel like with the final ending of the last scene, where he's like locking the door and she's trying to open it, and then finally she just like decides and turns and smiles and looks at him. I think she's gonna use her dentata. I've decided for myself. Where she's gonna be like, guess what? My whole body can be a weapon. And fuck you right now. I mean, I think she just bites it off with her mouth teeth.
I would.
And I think
Good for
her.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's why this movie, it's like, it's so awesome, but then at the end you're still just like, ugh, because yeah, she's got this power that she can use, but just like what you just said, Chelsea, like it's so contingent on her suffering, like it has to get to that point for her to use it. And so that it's still like, are we winning, ladies? You know what I mean? like yeah, a little bit, not as a full win, but still a great film.
I mean, I think that's probably a man's influence.
Written
if this
and
movie was
directed
written
by
by
the same man.
men and directed, I think they just didn't really consider the implication. They're like, having teeth in your vagina protects you from being sexually assaulted. It sure seems like it doesn't. It sure seems like she's getting sexually assaulted left and right, and it gives her a weapon against the people who are sexually assaulting her, which is great. But if it can only help you after the
You're
fact
still gonna
how
have all of
helpful
that
is it?
trauma, you know? You're maybe not gonna
Yeah,
die,
more
but
than nothing,
you know,
maybe.
yeah. So it's
You do get to murder the men hurting you, but also now she has the trauma of being like, I killed somebody. I have to go to the police. I have to
yeah.
turn myself in, blah,
It's
blah, blah.
it's more
Like,
complicated. It's definitely more complicated. I'm glad that this movie exists, but like and it's a cool concept. And apparently it was really hard to get off the ground. Um oh yeah, it was like
oh, I bet.
they went to whatever city it's set in, I can't remember, and they were going around with this like film set location scout guy who's from the area, and they went on all these morning shoots. They needed like a school, a hospital, and a house. They went to all these different places in the morning, and then they're going to meet up again in the evening. And between the morning and the evening, the guy actually read the script, and in that time, he had called every single place that they had seen and who had agreed to do it and said, do not let them film here. This is a pornographic film. And like sabotaged all of their locations that they had already had set up. And so then they were able to get new ones, but it's just like people really didn't want this to happen. They were really uncomfortable with the subject matter. Which is like,
Yeah, I saw on IMDb that it said something about like the neighbors in the very opening scene in particular were like protesting
that
during
doesn't surprise me at
filming.
all. Yeah, the reception was really bad, and like when he wrote the script, like one of his friends read it and was like, "Don't show this to anyone. No one will ever want to work with you." Like it, like really upset some people and really rubbed them the wrong way. And it's so interesting because it's such a male dominated industry, especially probably at that time way more so. Um, so I don't know, guys just really that scared about getting their dick bit off, I guess. But it's not even that feminist of a movie. So joke's on all of us.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to skip to head to our knives segment just yet, so I'll save what I am going to say for that point. But I think it's one of those things where it's like, I really like this movie. I think it did a pretty good job. Ultimately, I both enjoy myself watching it and appreciate the takeaway. I think if they'd had more women involved, they would have been able to really crystallize the problems with the film and what they were trying to communicate versus what they
totally
were
agree.
actually
Totally agree.
communicating.
I mean, okay, along with that, the first question we always ask is how could this movie be gayer? And God wouldn't have been great. It would have been, well, I wouldn't have necessarily saved her from a lot of these things, but you know, having being a bisexual or pan or lesbian in this situation seems like a great time. But that won't stop psycho men from
I got
coming at you apparently in this world and in the real one. Jesus.
I got some vibes with her and her bestie, though. I'll say that. There was one moment very early in the beginning after her first speech when she's like hanging out in the hallway with them and she's like, I miss you. I miss you. And they're kind of doing like a cuddly moment. I wrote that that was gay in my notes, but then they just didn't really have any vibes the rest of the movie. And that I think is mostly because the best friend and the best friend's boyfriend don't exist that much the rest of the movie. You'd think they sure would circle back at some point when she's like really struggling, but other than that one car ride to that speech, they sure don't. But also considering that her whole thing is like purity culture and now she feels like forcibly removed from purity culture. I could see her distancing herself from them. I wish we had gotten a scene of that though. And then we could have also had
Yeah,
more
there
gay
just
subtext.
wasn't a lot of room. Like there weren't a lot of other female characters, and also all the men are dead or should die, and so I'm not doing anything with them. They're not welcome into the community.
Mm-hmm.
um,
Mm-hmm.
Does this movie pass the Bechdel test?
That's an
does the
interesting
mom
question.
and the daughter talk about anything? They talk about the mom being sick for a second.
I mean, you could argue that her and her best friend in the beginning being like, I missed you, that could be a conversation that's not about men. I don't remember like what else they say exactly in the conversation.
Then she's like, "This is Toby."
Yeah, but it's one of those things where it's like, okay, it's hard to quantify, like, how long does the conversation have to be? You know what I mean? And like, blah blah blah. I think also sometimes, Bechdel test is not everything, and it's not supposed to be everything. But it sure would have been nice to get a little more in this film.
Yeah.
A little more.
Just like it would have been cool for her to have some other woman to go to be like, hey, does this happen with you? But it's all the more alienating. Does your vagina
Does
chop
your
off dicks
vagina have
sometimes?
teeth?
Or
Yeah.
is it just me? But I think like her mom dying and that being her closest female companion besides her purity ass friend who like she's not going to come to with that because like she broke the rule, this is in scare quotes, that she'd been preaching about for years. So like I think it's like serves all the more to alienate her when she's going through this really hard time that like her one person that she could go to ask these sort of questions is literally dead. It's just so fucking horrifying. Jesus. But yeah, I think, maybe down the road, once she's done biting off or vagina biting off that old man's dick and then stealing his car and driving off into the sunset, there could be a beautiful gay future for Dawn. The world is her oyster.
I would love that for Dawn.
I love that for her.
She
yeah,
deserves
I
it.
think she
really
deserves
does.
it.
Oh, man. Where would Matthew Lillard fit into this movie?
I kind of feel like ideally nowhere.
Agreed. Or he's the pastor who gets up on the stand.
Yeah.
That
Who's
was
just like,
weird.
okay, anyway.
Moving
Remember not to
on.
masturbate. I think that could have been a really funny spot for him. But I don't know if he was quite the right age for that in 2007. But, we can always match with time. He'll be fine. He can be fine. Yeah, that actually kind of fits the vibe. Cool youth pastor. So funny. He would slay that. That would be actually great. I'm set on this.
A sleigh.
That's very Pastor Skip vibes in Saved that we have to do Saved sometime.
I've never seen Saved.
We'll get there.
Okay.
It's so fun. A lot of same vibes except very different.
It wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be for having not seen Saved.
No.
Okay, and that brings us to the dumb bitch. Men. Except for the dad.
Yeah. It's hard when you have such a wonderful cast of predators to choose from, it's hard to pick just one. I think, yeah, Brad is super, super dumb. Ryan is super dumb because he literally fucks it up in the middle of sex. You know what I mean? Like he could have had it made if he just was a little more polite and respectful. I've seen enough rom-coms to know that you can get away with doing a sex bet as long as you have fallen in love by that point. And I think he could have pulled it off, but tragically, no. Tragically, no.
The moral there is even if you're a wonderful lover, if you're a douche, that doesn't outweigh it, okay? It's not, it's still bad. He's a douche. He's a douche. And he's a dumb bitch.
He's a douche.
But Toby is like a feral dumb bitch, and I'm glad he's dead. Even though he looked like Nick Jonas. Do you think he like got hypothermia, or like because he went in the water, he bled out really fast?
I think it was blood loss. I don't think it was because he was in the water. I think it's got to be
probably
a big
shock too.
Shock in the cold. But isn't there something about if you're in water, you bleed more fast? Goodbye. I'm sorry. Faster, in other words? I don't know. I don't know.
Is that a thing?
Well, I thought that it was.
I have no idea.
If it is, then maybe it is.
Should we Google?
Google it.
Bleeding faster in water. Why does water make cuts and wounds bleed more?
Quora is facts. Only facts on Quora.
Only facts. Okay, someone suggests that it is because if the water is like consistently washing the blood away, it stops it from clotting as fast. I don't think that would necessarily be, I don't think it would have clotted that fast in this particular case regardless. But yeah, that's people seem to be saying it's
Mm.
a clotting
And
issue.
also, like, maybe he got into that ooky water and immediately got gangrene and died or something. His body went into shock from the bacteria from the fuck cave.
Honestly, a possibility.
Yeah, they're all dumb bitches except for the dad. He's nice. He's nice.
They're
And
all dumb
Mother's
bitches.
a woman, so that makes sense. Okay, and that brings us to our knives out of fives. Chelsea, what did the people think?
Super interesting on this one. On IMDb, this movie has a 5.4 out of 10. And then on Rotten Tomatoes, it has 80% fresh from critics and 45% rotten from audiences. So
That
there's like a
totally
big
makes sense to
dichotomy.
me on this one.
And kind of yeah, what I kind of was getting at earlier is that I was looking at these reviews to be like, what did audiences not like that critics did like? And a lot of men are basically being like, dudes don't watch. So they just were completely missing the
of
point
course.
and the big picture and the messaging, and
Classic
they
men.
were upset at something. You know, the Emma Stone SNL sketch of like wishing well for sensitive boys or whatever, where she's just like, this one thing is for him, not everything is for you. Like, they just don't get that not everything is for them.
Oh, I love that sketch. Julio.
You don't have to weigh in with your bad, wrong opinion if you're not even going to engage with the critical themes of the film.
Just don't go see it.
Exactly.
Yeah, and the girlies who would have liked to see it didn't see it because it wasn't marketed to them. Like they only had like a $2 million budget for this movie, which like okay, it's still a lot of money, but like comparatively, and they like barely made it back, if even, in the theatrical release. So oopsies, but it has a cult following now. Yay!
Yay!
As it should, quite frankly. This movie's well
Yeah.
deserved.
Okay, well, do you want to go first, Sydney?
Yes. I give this movie a 4.5 out of 5. I hadn't seen this since your birthday party watch, and I remember watching it when I had to either be like a senior in high school or a junior in high school. Like I watched it like relatively like when it came out, and I remember really liking it and all of the guys that I was with hating it, which made me like it even more.
That scans.
You know, like I was like, this movie is incredible and it holds up, and it's even funnier than I thought it was, because now that I'm older, I understand the like very subtle comedy of this movie. And again, a lot of like rape revenge movies are uncomfortable and not what one would describe as fun, but this one does. It takes like a really hard subject matter and makes it a good for you, girl.
Yeah, I think they managed to really pull off well. Like I was saying, this movie, there's a lot of movies that take on this subject matter that leave me feeling really, truly awful. Like, we haven't done Promising Young Woman, but that's a movie that is kind of covering some of this same ground, but made me feel so bad that I couldn't even tell if I liked the movie or not.
I still haven't
whereas
seen that
with
one.
this
but I see
one,
what you're saying.
It could be interesting to do at some point and like have the whole big discussion. But I still have no idea how I feel about it. So that we'll have to process that later should we get to it. But this one I think gives you enough that you feel to some degree like she is empowered at the end of it. You feel like her smile at the end leaves you with enough to feel like she is grown and changed and empowered and prepared to take on things that are coming next, willing and able to defend herself at that point. I think it gives you enough to walk away feeling good as a woman. I guess all these men walked away haunted, tormented, terrified, and may that be a lesson to them, frankly. But also clearly it was not, because again, the lesson is if you are not terrible, there's no reason to be afraid.
Yeah.
But
went whoosh over
Whatever.
their heads.
But yeah, I mean, even before we started recording, I was talking to one of my best friends on the phone, and she was telling me about how a guy she knew from high school was like traumatized by this movie and was like so scared of it, blah blah blah. And I don't know,
It's like,
it just
don't be a
frustrates
horrible
me.
dick bag and you'll keep your dick on.
Yes, and also like, I'm so sorry that you had to watch one movie one time where dicks get bitten off. Like, we watched terrible things literally every episode of Game of Thrones or whatever. I just think they need to get over it. So yeah, I mean, I think it's a really good movie. I think it's really fun. It could have benefited from more women weighing in on its execution, but for the most part, the execution is pretty good and pretty sensitive. Especially in regards to like respecting the actress and her portrayal. So I'd also give it like a 4.5.
Hell yeah. I think for me watching this again, or maybe for the first time, I feel like maybe again, I don't know. The watching it
with sound
in
this
this
time,
way
maybe?
in the back of Adam's RAV4. I was a little bit more critical this time around watching it. I still had a really good time. I laughed out loud many a time. I went, oh, a bunch of times too, out of shock. There's one point where you really get to see the stump of the penis, all gushy blood. And I was like, nice, graphic, horrifying, something I never thought I'd see, but here we are. I think we are so blessed in 2022 to be seeing more and more female horror directors out there, or just like non-male horror directors out there. And so yeah, knowing what I know now, like it did kind of tinge the whole film for me to know that a dude did it, and then I'm pointing out all the points where I was like, yeah, that's where they didn't get it. You know what I mean? But I mean, maybe in 20 years we'll get a remake by a female director, and wow, what a joy that would be. But I think still it is a great movie, and I think it's a really interesting concept. I think it's an absolutely hilarious thing to be set within like a purity chastity sort of movement. I that just like totally caught me off guard, and I was really funny. I think the acting is really superb in it. I think that even though I hate him so much, the brother, I like looking at him because I can't figure out what's going on with those mutton chops. It's just like somewhere, it looks like his hair is drawn on with a Sharpie. Also, it's like very shocking. I don't know what's happening. But I don't know. I think it's a fun movie, and I'll probably see it again, but I'm not rushing back. And I don't know. I'm gonna give this like a 4.3 for me.
Nice.
Beautiful.
But yeah, that about wraps it up for tea. We've got something special coming up next. Would you like to tell them all about it? Whoever's turn it is.
Well, it's a hard one. Okay, I'll start and then you finish, Sydney. How about that? Okay.
I got you.
All right.
Tee me up.
Next episode is actually a huge, exciting deal because it's a bunch of different things coming together all at once. It is the final destination. And it is also the final destination of season 2 of Spooky Tuesday. Wow. Can you believe we planned that so well and it was so smart? And this is where
we're so good at planning.
Just really cool to be so smart. Anyway, I'm teeing up Sydney now because we will be joined by a special guest. Sydney, who is it?
We are going to have my friend Spencer on the podcast, and he is very excited and he's taken a lot of notes, and he incredibly diligent. He was telling me all about how excited he is, and he also wanted to let us know that our Tremors episode was his favorite because boy did we latch on to Reba and run with it.
A man of taste.
Wow.
Exactly.
Should I be drunk for this episode too? Because that's what I was for the Tremors episode.
I think we all have to be drunk. It's the
No, we can't all be drunk. We've done that
Yeah, it's
before.
true,
We
it's
had to
true, it's true.
re-record.
We were way too drunk. But yeah, I mean,
Don't pot on Cinco
Don't.
de Mayo, my
don't.
friend.
It's not smart. It's not smart. But I'm really
Don't drink and
I'm very
pod.
excited to see this movie finally that I may or may not have seen before. And I'm sad that Final Destination Summer is coming to an end because it's been so much fun. But just so you know, don't be scared. You're hearing what? The last episode of season 2? What's gonna happen? Where are you going? Nowhere. Season 3 starts the next week.
It's just a tracker for us.
It is just a
internally.
ceremonial experience to
Look.
generate hype around October 1st. Is it working? I think it's going to work great. Why not tell us how great our marketing skills are in a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts for this podcast? Because we're still inching towards 100 reviews. Help us get there. Come on, come on. We're very close. I'm sure there's a haiku that you could write about your feelings about Final Destination Summer leading up to the finale of the Final Destination, the Final Destination of Final Destination. Except there's a 6th one coming out. That's a haiku pitch right there. Yeah,
Which we'll obviously do.
that immediately as soon as it comes out. Come on. But we're not there yet. Okay, we have to live in the now. Why not follow us on social media? That's very now. At Spooky_Tuesday on TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram. At Spooky Tuesday Pod on Facebook and Tumblr. And at Spooky Tuesday on Letterboxd. And we have a YouTube video. And thank you for listening.
Bye, spooky.
Bye.
Your mouth is saying one thing, babe. But your sweet pussy is saying something very different.
Shit.
Spooky Tuesday was created by Monica Height, Sydney Thompson, and Chelsea Duff, and edited by Sydney Thompson. Our gorgeously spooky tunes are all thanks to Tamara Simons, who you can follow on Instagram at Captain Tamara, and our podcast art is by Mary Murphy, who you can find on Instagram at the_moon_omg.